Hi everyone, Zoltan here. We're back again with Tech Quarterly Meetup. This is the fourth quarterly meetup and last quarterly meetup of the year. So today, as usual, Greg McMullen of Segev LLP will host the Crypto Catchup. He has some valuable insights in there, so make sure to watch this. Greg, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Crypto Catch-Up, where we try to bring you up to date on the latest at the intersection of virtual assets and the law. So a bit about me. I'm Greg Mullen. I've been practicing crypto law in some form since 2015. And I am with Segev LLP, a firm in Vancouver, Canada, that works in technology law and emerging practice areas like gaming, virtual assets, psychedelics, and we like to take on complicated new questions that other firms might shy away from. So we're going to do our usual news roundup this time. We've got a real rogues gallery of a crypto catch-up for you today. First story, without a doubt, SBF guilty of fraud. We won't spend too much time on it because it's been covered to death. But just in case, or for anyone who is like waking up from a coma or something, SBF and FTX were found guilty of fraud. Jury deliberated for 4.5 hours after months of trial before declaring him guilty on 7 charges, including wire fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. He will be sentenced on March 28th of next year, and he will most likely see decades in prison. His ex-girlfriend and former Alameda Research CEO, Caroline Ellison, and former FTX employees Gary Wang and Nishad Singh all cooperated with the prosecutors and pled guilty themselves. They are also waiting for sentencing. And speaking of guilty pleas, our next story, Binance and CZ plead guilty to money laundering charges. The largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance.com, and its founder, Tianpeng CZ Zhao, have pled guilty to violating the US Bank Secrecy Act. This one is actually really important, so even though it's been pretty widely reported, I want to spend a bit of time digging into it. So first, what did they plead guilty to? Binance pled guilty to conspiring to knowingly conduct an unlicensed money transmitting business in violation of the United States Code. If you run a money transmitting business in the US or a money service business in Canada, that's things like payment processors, currency exchanges, right up through to stock exchanges or crypto exchanges. You need to register first as a money transmission business, or in Canada, a money service business. Binance didn't do this when they first entered the US market, and even when they launched their registered Binance.us for US customers, they didn't do a very good job of it. They continued to let high net worth customers trade on Binance.com and even told them how to get around their own security checks to access it. So the government quoted an instant message from CZ where he said, "We need to word it very carefully," talking about the pop-up that they'd have informing US customers of the new service and that they weren't allowed on Binance.com. We need to word it very carefully so that when we let people know what they need to do, including using a VPN, without explicitly stating it. So telling people how to defeat their own security measures and being sneaky about it so the government won't find out. Number 2, conspiring to violate and cause a financial institution to violate the Bank Secrecy Act in violation of US code. So the Bank Secrecy Act provisions here are US anti-money laundering law and counter-terrorist financing laws. There are a lot of technical requirements for processes that you need to have in place, officers in the company who need to be reviewing transactions. But the big one is that you have to report transactions over $10,000 and any other suspicious transactions to FinCEN in the US and FinTrack in Canada. So the result of Binance not doing a proper job of this was over 100,000 illicit transactions that the government found out about with sanctioned actors, including terrorist organizations, without filing suspicious activity reports. Binance and its people knew that its policies were inadequate. The government cited a message between staff in internal chats that they should have an ad that says, "Is laundering your drug money too hard? Come to Binance." Uh, Conducting, controlling, managing, supervising, directing, and owning parts of an unlicensed money transmission business affecting interstate and foreign commerce. And they also pled guilty to knowingly causing the exportation, sale, and supply of services to Iran without first having obtained the authorization or license from the Department of Treasury in violation of multiple sections of the US Code. The result of that was 1.5 million trades that violated US sanctions for a total of 900 million US sent between Iranian users and US users, and millions to Syria and Russian occupied areas. In the case of CZ, causing a financial institution to violate the Bank Secrecy Act in violation of the United States Code. So in his role as CEO of Binance. So that was a mouthful getting through those. What are the consequences of that? So the most widely published consequences are the financial penalties, which are enormous. Over $4 billion for Binance and over 100 million for CZ personally. Binance is going to be required to report suspicious transactions retroactively, and they're going to be required to establish an effective AML program. So looking at what that means retroactively, when we're talking about 1.5 million trades, that's going to be a drop in the bucket of their total trade volume. So they'll have to review all of that and report back effectively to the government. They'll also suffer increased scrutiny from a monitor overseen by FinCEN, including overseeing their total exit from the US market. Now, it wasn't clear if that meant just Binance.com or Binance.us as well, but that's going to have a huge financial impact on Binance. It's also going to have a huge impact on the customers of Binance. The monitor is going to be able to access all of Binance's internal records to ensure that the provisions of the deal are being met. That will likely include things that the customers did not want the US government to see and that the US government would not be entitled to see under normal circumstances. And for CZ personally, he is responsible for $100 million fine. That was played up as the big deal on the day of the plea deal. And the government reported that they would be allowing him to go back to Dubai, where he's been living, causing a lot of people to say that he kind of got a sweetheart deal, that he was able to buy his way out of the charges. But that has turned out not to be the case. The plea agreement says the government will ask for a maximum of 18 months in prison, but the judge could increase it to over 10 years because the judge isn't bound to the terms of the plea deal. The US has also said that he is a flight risk, and the judge has now put a restriction on him leaving the US before his sentencing in several months' time. So what does this mean for crypto law? Like I said, the initial kind of rumblings were that the biggest fish are not subject to real penalties. They'll just be able to buy their way out of it. $100 million is not a whole lot to someone like CZ. So the penalties that can be assessed don't really act as a deterrent to someone who has made billions this way. But the fact that he will be facing potential real jail time, at least 18 months for what the government is asking for, and up to 10 years in terms of the sentencing guidelines, that has got to make people sit up and take note. So there's no more Wild West when it comes to crypto, at least not to crypto exchanges. Now, Binance, of course, is a centralized exchange. So the question is, what does this mean for DeFi? Now, it's not quite sure what that will be, but kind of reading the tea leaves a little bit, in the press conference around the announcement of the plea deal, the U.S. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said, and I quote, "Today's actions show that those rules apply equally to traditional financial institutions and those powered by decentralized and cutting-edge technologies." So using the word decentralized could be referring to Binance and blockchain in general, or it could be a hint that they're looking at DeFi next. We haven't seen any real regulatory action against DeFi protocols, which are handling an increased volume of crypto transactions, and probably even more now after the Binance deal. So the Binance plea was a criminal matter involving the CFTC, the Department of Treasury, and the Department of Justice. The SEC, not wanting to feel left out, of course, still has its cases against Coinbase and Binance going on. They have now added Kraken to the list. The SEC brought charges against Kraken on November 20th, alleging it operates an unregistered securities exchange, broker, dealer, and clearing agency. The SEC alleges that the problems at Kraken could go beyond a dispute over securities law. They say that Kraken has, quote, commingled its customers' money with its own, including paying operational expenses directly from accounts that held customer cash. They've also alleged that it commingles customer crypto assets with its own, creating what its own auditor has identified as a significant risk of loss to its customers. So this shows that the SEC is still taking these cases very seriously, is looking at the other big operators as well as smaller ones, which we'll get to next. In Bittrex Global shutting down. Bittrex Global was one of the early exchanges to take advantage of the ICO frenzy in 2017. They are now closing up shop after SEC charges in May. Their global operation had already shut down. Their US operation had already shut down. So the result of this, the SEC is having difficulty hiring crypto specialists. From the Office of the US Inspector General, a new report on the SEC saying that officials in several SEC divisions have cited a small candidate pool of qualified experts and high competition from private sector recruitment as challenges in filling crypto asset specialist positions. The report said that many of the qualified candidates actually hold crypto assets, which the Office of Ethics Counsel has said would prohibit them from working on certain cases involving crypto assets. So that prohibition, according to SEC officials, has been detrimental to recruiting, as the candidates are unwilling to divest their crypto assets to take a government job at the SEC. Maybe not a huge surprise there to anyone working in the crypto field, but it's interesting to see the government realizing it. So despite all of these criminal and regulatory enforcement actions, the adoption of blockchain in real finance continues. We saw a story earlier this month about HSBC launching crypto securities storage services as part of a partnership with Medico, which was just acquired by Ripple. Ripple having won in part their massive SEC case. HSBC has now launched a platform for issuing digital assets, for keeping custody of digital assets, and for tokenizing physical gold. So despite all that regulatory action, we see traditional financial institutions adopting blockchain, both in their back end and in their customer-facing products, and finding ways to make it work with the existing financial system. So I think that is a sign that we still aren't out of the woods yet. We don't have regulations that meet the needs of what these companies would like to be able to do. And we really do need to see new legislation before we will find peace in the crypto universe. I think the big message from all of these, and I think especially coming back to the Binance case, we see a lot of crypto clients saying things like the regulations aren't clear. We don't know what to do. We're just frustrated and want to find a way to make this happen. I think with the Binance case in particular, and seeing these quotes from CZ from what he thought were probably private chats, seeing internal messages from employees joking about how their anti-money laundering provisions are weak. The government is slow to get moving, but once it does start moving, it's unstoppable, even for the very biggest players in the industry and even for personal billionaires. The government might seem slow, inept when new technologies emerge, but when you start to see these quotes appearing in their plea deals, like having these messages appearing, having the intention of Binance in terms of setting up a geo block for US users, but then hinting at how to get around it, and even joking as one employee did about maybe we need to have a Google ad for a VPN on the main page. When you are just trying to trick the government into thinking that things are okay, you are not going to get away with it. So I think we're at a difficult point now where the regulations don't meet what industry wants to do. They don't meet what people want in terms of being able to access these services. So it'll be very interesting to see what comes out of the next several months and years. Will we see peace and new regulations actually being passed through Congress? That sure doesn't look like Congress can do much of anything right now. And I think that really lines up an interesting 2024 when it comes to the virtual asset space. I think that's it. Zoltan, unless you had any questions you wanted to see addressed, that is a good place to stop and maybe give people a chance to stretch or get on with their mornings.
All right. So yeah, there's no questions, but I have some questions. I saw that Cristiano Ronaldo is facing a lawsuit of $1 billion, given the fact that he was advertising Binance. So, what's your take on that?
Let me have a quick look at this.
multiple
Interesting. Okay,
investors have.
so yeah, over NFTs that Binance issued
Yeah,
featuring Ronaldo. So the SEC and the the consumer regulators in the US have said that celebrities have to disclose when they are endorsing um, a crypto product or any product for that matter. It has to be disclosed on the ad. So a lot of Instagram influencers, especially, were caught up in this during the height of the NFT boom. Um, I
yeah,
think in
but
this case, if he didn't,
the-
sorry, go ahead.
there's also a lot of other things that are caught up in this, like Formula One, Major League Baseball, so the leagues and stuff like that, who had
Yep.
advertising with Binance. So that this is going to be big.
Yeah, I think Ronaldo's when litigators are looking for cases like this, they want to go after what they call deep pockets. So whoever has the most money floating around, uh, Ronaldo is certainly that. Uh, I think kind of maybe the top tier of like NBA people when NBA Top Shot was a big thing, the baseball ones, as you've mentioned, Formula One. Any of the top tier of talent should probably be looking over their shoulders now. I think the fact that he had his own set of
Yeah.
tokens and not just like a league um, like as part of a league makes him a bigger target. But anyone who has their
Yeah.
own endorsement deal, yeah, that's probably going to be a growth industry for lawyers in the next year.
All right. So thank you, Greg, for this input once again, and thank you everyone for joining us. We will be back next year. So, Greg, I'm already wishing you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy holidays, and
Thank you, Zoltan. The
let's
same to
catch
you.
up
Happy
in
New Year.
2024.
And yeah, very early Merry Christmas. Bye.
Take good care.